Chicken pie is a family favourite, and I know many different cultures do different versions of the chicken pie. I'm going to do a Greek-style chicken pie using oregano, lots of garlic and some silver beet. And instead of using a classic crust like short crust, I'm going to be using phyllo to make it extra Greek. This is fantastic because it stays really flaky and light. Now for the chicken stew, you'll need 800 grams of chicken thigh. I've removed the bone and the skin too, and then a good glug of olive oil into a large saute pan, just like this one. And I'll add the chicken. And you may need to do this in batches depending on how big your saute or casserole pan is. This one's quite large, so I can do it in one layer. Now once that's sealing off, add a little bit of salt and a good crack of pepper. And then we just want it to go light golden brown on each side. It doesn't have to be completely caramelized for this pie because we want it to be slightly blonde in colour, not too dark. Now I'm adding 2 leeks to this recipe, and you want to finely shred them. And no onions are required for this because this is going to give it that mild, pungent flavour. And just like onions, when they're cooked for a long time, these leeks are going to become so sweet and a fantastic addition to a chicken pie like this. Let's turn this chicken. Smells fantastic. Perfect colour. And then again, just very briefly peeling the chicken on this side. Now you need 2 cloves of garlic for this recipe. Just crushing them with your knife and then finely slicing them. Now I'll take the chicken out and place it onto a plate. Now add another teaspoon of oil and we'll add the leeks to the pan and then cook them down for at least 6 to 8 minutes until they soften and become a little bit translucent. The garlic can go in at this stage too. Now these leeks have cooked down significantly, so now it's time to add the thickening agent to this pie, which is 2 tablespoons of plain flour, and just allow it to fry off for a little bit. Now at this stage we can add the chicken and any of the juices. That is going to make this sauce extra tasty. And now I'm going to deglaze this pan with a little bit of white wine and just allow that to bubble away. And then I'll add some herbs. Now, traditional herbs with Greek cooking, some bay leaves and some fresh oregano. Don't pick it, just pop it straight in. I'll add some chicken stock and then we'll turn this down to a gentle simmer, pop the lid on and then let this cook for about 45 minutes or until the chicken's really tender. While that's cooking, however, we can get on to our pie crust. Now, when you're working with phyllo, always cover it with a damp cloth when you're working between each piece of phyllo pastry sheet. The reason we do this is because we don't want it to dry out, so just nice, damp, clean cloth. And then I've prepared some melted butter and then just brush it from side to side with a generous amount of butter. Now you can use a round dish for this, a round pie dish, or I love to use a rectangular classic Greek style pie dish. And you need about 10 layers of this phyllo pastry. So start with the buttered side down and then mold it into the dish. And then in a crisscross way, I'm going to add 1 layer vertically, 1 layer horizontally, and then continue the process until I've got about 8 to 10 layers and push the pastry into the corner so we get a nice shape when it's cooking in the oven. Now I've laid my pie dish with about 8 layers of pastry and the butter, and now this is completely cooked and cooled down a little bit, enough to handle. And what I want to do is take the pieces of chicken out one by one, and then with 2 forks, break up the chicken into strands, and then place it back into the leek mixture. Now the chicken has been shredded and I've placed it back in with the leeks, and I'm just heating it up one more time so I can add a little bit of thickened cream. Now you only need a few tablespoons of thickened cream and it'll start to thicken up immediately. And I'll add a few more ingredients to this lovely chicken stew. A little bit of silver beet, you could use some spinach if you like, some kale would be great. I've just blanched this and then cooled it down and squeezed out as much of the liquid as possible because we don't want this stew to be watery because we don't want a sloppy pie. And then run your knife through it a few times. I'll add it to our chicken, mix that in. Now I've turned the heat off because you do want this to be a little bit cool before you add it to the phyllo pastry base. The last ingredient I'm adding is some pine nuts. Toast the pine nuts off beforehand and a good handful. This is for the texture in the pie. This is very Greek. I love this combination with the chicken and the leeks. Fold it through at the very last minute. I'll add our chicken stew to the base. All of it goes in. Scraping down the sides, and then with the back of your wooden spoon, spread it out. See how it's not too watery? And now all we need to do is fold over the sides. If it breaks up a little bit, no problems at all, because I am going to put another layer of pastry on top and just press down on it to compress it ever so gently. And now for the last few layers of phyllo pastry, unwrap it one more time. And we'll place one over here. Just brush it with a little bit of that butter. And we'll pop that on top. Just fold it over and then tuck it in, just like a little phyllo blanket, scrunching it, tucking it in. And then with a really sharp knife, just gently indent the top of the phyllo pastry with a diamond shape, just like I'm doing here. See, I'm not going all the way through. And then we'll go the other way. It's almost just gently bruising the top of it. And now this goes into the oven for about 25 to 30 minutes or until that top is really golden brown. And then in it goes. Pretty happy with this pie. It's come out of the oven and it's cooled for about 15 to 20 minutes. Oh, I love the sound of crunchy phyllo pastry. I'm going to take a nice, generous corner part and then we'll take that out. Oh, yum. And have a look at that inside. And that is delicious as is. Or if you like, you can serve it with a Greek salad. How appropriate with our chicken pie made Greek style.